2 years after its initial release, God of War Ragnarok has finally come to the PC, following in the footsteps of its 2018 predecessor as well as other PlayStation titles. I missed out when the game originally launched in the winter of 2022. By this point, I was already a fully fledged member of the PC Master Race and decided to skip the current console generation. So I, along with many other PC gamers, have been eagerly awaiting the return of Kratos to the PC platform. Full disclosure, I am a big God of War fan. In fact, when the 2018 game was announced, I dusted off my PS3 and played all the old games back to back for a quick refresh and to prepare for the challenges to come. This included God of War Ascension, which is a highly underrated entry of the franchise. That is a hill I am willing to die on. Now, I'm not going to review Ragnarok in its entirety. After all, the game is now 2 years old. However, what I will say is that I went into the game completely blind, and incredibly, I've been able to avoid all spoilers that dwell in some of those dark corners of the internet for the past 2 years. Needless to say, I was completely unprepared for the death of Fenrir. That hit me like a brick. Seriously, hit me for six that. Not cool, Santa Monica. Not cool. Despite that tear-jerking opening, it was nice to reconnect with some of the characters from the previous game. Mimir makes a return as the talking head who offers Kratos counsel whether he wants it or not, and I couldn't help but raise a smile when the game reintroduced the dwarven brothers Brock and Sindri, who, like in the previous title, offered some welcome comic relief. Before long, the game soon settled into a more familiar feel, with Kratos being the old grumpy dad we all know and love, albeit slightly slower than I remember, and his son Atreus, the young inquisitive adventurer who seeks answers to the mysteries discovered in Jotunheim. The 2-year wait for the game to leave its early access on console and release on PC has not disappointed. The action-packed curtain opener, which is something the franchise is now renowned for, had me on the edge of my seat. Within the first 2 hours, the game had treated me to not one, not two, not three, but 4 boss battles, the pick of which saw Kratos go toe-to-toe with Thor. This game has me hooked from the very start, so bravo to the production team. I'm very happy to report that from a technical standpoint, the game is flawless. This is the gold standard as far as a PC port is concerned. In fact, this is the gold, diamond and double bloody platinum standard for all PC releases, full stop. All too often we see unfinished and unpolished games at launch, plagued with stuttering issues, bugs, glitches, the lot, but not Ragnarok. You can watch the recap video on the main menu whilst the shaders are installing, happy in the knowledge that the game will perform as expected right off the bat. The game has been very well optimised as far as the graphical options are concerned. You'll be pleased to know that there are numerous different tweaks you can make here and there in order to max out your system's potential. All the usual suspects are here, such as Nvidia DLSS and AMD FSR, and anyone out there playing on an Intel Arc GPU, you'll be happy to hear that the game supports XeSS upscaling, so rejoice, all 7 of you. All the other graphical options are correct and present, ranging from textures and models to lighting and shadow quality. You can of course assign a preset of low, medium, high or ultra, or you can customise each option accordingly in order to squeeze out every single available frame. Now, whilst on the subject of frame rate, I've got to say everything is pretty smooth and solid. Yes, there were the occasional dips here and there, but it never seemed to be noticeable in the moment-to-moment gameplay. To tell you the truth, the only way I knew that the frame rate had dropped at all was when I had a peek at the heads-up display via MSI Afterburner. On medium settings, the game would sit happily at about 140 frames a second and would not skip a beat. On high, this would drop between 115 and 130 frames, and on ultra it would peak at around about 110 frames a second and not drop below 90. Now, as far as I'm concerned, that is pretty impressive. All the aforementioned frame rates were tested with a Ryzen 5950X and a 3080 Ti at 1440p. And what's even more impressive is that the fact that the game, even on Ultra, didn't want to melt my CPU or GPU. Now compare that to Jedi Survivor at launch. Not only was that game cooking my GPU from the inside out, it did so while struggling to maintain a steady 60 frames a second, and even now, a year and a half after launch, still has performance issues. All in all, my first impressions of God of War Ragnarok on PC are pretty great. I've really enjoyed my time with it so far, and as I've already mentioned, this is the gold standard that all development teams should strive towards when releasing their games onto the PC platform. No excuses. So is it all perfect? You would certainly think so, having listened to me fanboy for the last 5 to 10 minutes. My honest opinion? Yes. Actually, I do think this is a perfect or near perfect release that I absolutely recommend to anybody considering purchasing the game. My only real gripe is the size of the UI when navigating the game menus, which is a little large for my tastes, but it is something I can live with. So why the mixed reviews on Steam, I hear you cry? Well, from what I can gather, people aren't happy about having to link a PlayStation Network account in order to play the game. In fact, it's the very first screen you will come to once you launch the game for the first time. There is no way around it. You either accept it or you quit. For me, this wasn't a big deal because I already have a PlayStation Network account from back when I was part of the PlayStation generation. But I can see why this rubs folk up the wrong way, and yes, I do agree, it's unnecessary, but let's be real, it's nothing new, it's going to happen more in the future, and you're going to keep doing it regardless if you want to keep playing these games, especially PlayStation games, on PC. I actually read one negative review on Steam the other day that went along the lines of, if you have no internet to sign in, then you are fudged. I mean, it wasn't quite that polite, but you get the picture. And my response to that is, well, how on earth, dear sir, dear fellow, dear human being, did you manage to download a game that is 175 gigabytes in size without a stable internet connection? I think some people just want to have a whine and a moan and be outraged. And just as an FYI, you can actually play the game offline after the one-time sign into the PlayStation Network. So an internet connection isn't needed to play the game after that initial hurdle. Other complaints I've seen online are reports of crashing. This is something I have not had happen to me, although I am still in the early stages of the campaign. As I said earlier, I feel like the game is very well optimised. VRAM usage hasn't caused me any issues so far, touch wood, but there are reports out there suggesting big VRAM problems for other players, so that is something to bear in mind. If this is happening to you, then maybe try lowering the graphical preset down a notch or two. I feel some of the problems out there are from players trying to push their systems beyond its capabilities. I recommend reading the minimum system requirements before a purchase. That's always, it's always a good place to visit before, you part with your cash. With all that in mind, what are your thoughts on the God of War Ragnarok PC port? Are you playing it? Are you loving it? Are you hating it? Has the game's launch been nice and smooth, or are you part of the unfortunate crowd having technical issues? Let me know down in the comments. As always, please keep it clean and respectful. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.